The banishment. It was a cold day in the Galactic Council chambers when humanity received its final verdict. The air was thick with tension, and the fate of Earth was hanging by a thread. Representatives from the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy sat in the Grand Council room, their faces cold and indifferent as they prepared to make their decision. They had been discussing Earth's membership for years, and now they were about to make their choice. The leaders of the Council had long viewed Earth as nothing more than a backwater planet, a young species that hadn't even reached the stars. They saw humanity as a collection of primitive nations, constantly fighting among themselves, and believed that they could never be trusted to join the galactic community. The Council had already decided. They were going to ban Earth. The head of the Council, a tall, silver-skinned alien named Zathar, raised his hand, silencing the murmurs around the table. He spoke in a voice that echoed through the hall, firm and commanding. "We, the Council, have come to a decision. Humanity shall be excluded from the Galactic Alliance. Their behavior is unpredictable, and their progress is too unstable. Earth is a threat to the stability of the galaxy. As of today, humanity is banned." The words hit like a thunderclap. For a moment, there was silence in the room. The representatives of the Council all exchanged glances, but no one dared to speak up. They had all agreed on this. Humanity had failed, and they would not be allowed to join their peaceful galaxy. Back on Earth, the news spread like wildfire. The leaders of the human nations were in shock. They had spent years trying to prove themselves worthy of the Council's favor, sending diplomats, researchers, and ambassadors to convince the galaxy that Earth deserved a place among the stars. But now, it was all for nothing. They were officially rejected. The leaders of Earth gathered in a secret room, away from the public eye, to discuss their next steps. They had no idea what to do. They had worked so hard to be part of something bigger, but now they were isolated, alone. The Council's decision felt like a punch to the gut. In the middle of the room, a tall man named James Holden, the leader of Earth's Council, stood up. He was known for his calm demeanor and sharp mind, but even he was shaken by the rejection. "This is not the end," he said, his voice steady, but with a hint of anger. "They think they can just cast us aside, like we don't matter. But they've made a mistake, a huge mistake." Holden's words rang through the room. The human leaders looked at each other, exchanging uncertain glances. Some were worried, some were angry, but all of them felt a burning sense of injustice. Earth was not a weak planet. They had been growing, developing, and advancing. They had reached space, and they were ready to become part of the galaxy. And yet, the Council had turned their backs on them. "What do we do now?" A woman named Liana Kim asked. She was a brilliant scientist and one of Earth's top advisors. "We can't just sit here and wait for them to crush us. We need to act." Holden nodded slowly, a fire starting to build in his eyes. "We're not going to sit around and beg for their approval. We're going to show them that humanity is not a race to be dismissed. We will build something far greater than they can imagine." The room fell silent. Every eye was on Holden, waiting for him to explain. His plan was clear, but it was also dangerous. The Council had banned Earth, but humanity was not going to be defeated. Instead, they would rise, and they would rise in a way no one could have ever predicted. "What do you mean?" Kim asked, her curiosity piqued. Holden looked around the room at the other leaders. "We've been building something that could change the entire galaxy. I'm talking about a fleet powerful enough to rival anything the Council has ever seen." A murmur ran through the room. People exchanged nervous looks. A fleet. That was an ambitious goal, especially after the Council's decision to ban them. But as they looked into Holden's eyes, they saw a deep determination. He was serious. They had no choice but to follow his lead. "We have the resources," Holden continued. "We have the technology. We just need to put it all together. We don't need the Council to tell us what we can and can't do." We'll show them that Earth is not just a planet to be pushed aside. We will create an empire, and we will make the galaxy bow to us." The leaders of Earth listened carefully. Some were still hesitant, unsure if this was the right path. But deep down, they all knew that they couldn't just give up. Earth had been rejected, but humanity's spirit couldn't be crushed. It was time to act. It was time to build the future that the Council had denied them. As the meeting came to an end, Holden stood tall, a new sense of purpose in his eyes. This is just the beginning. The galaxy will know us. Earth will rise, and they will regret ever rejecting us. And so, the seeds of humanity's rise were planted. The banishment by the Council had not broken them. It had only fueled their determination. Earth would not be a forgotten world. They would build their own empire, and it would be the galaxy's greatest force. The Council had made their choice, but humanity was about to make theirs. The story of Earth's rejection was far from over. It had just begun. The days following Earth's rejection were filled with uncertainty, but they also brought a new sense of urgency. Humanity had been cast aside, but now the fires of defiance burned brighter than ever. Earth's leaders knew that they couldn't just sit and wait for the Council to change their minds. They needed to act, and they needed to act fast. James Holden, who had become the face of Earth's defiance, gathered a group of the brightest minds in the world. Engineers, military leaders, scientists, and strategists from every corner of Earth joined him in a hidden facility, far away from the prying eyes of the rest of the world. This would be the place where their plan would take shape. "We've been given no choice," Holden said as he stood in front of a massive holographic map of the galaxy. "The Council has banned us, but we're not going to let that stop us. We will build something far greater than anything they've ever seen." He pointed to a series of planets on the map. "These are the worlds we'll need to target. We have to build our fleet, and we'll need resources, technology, and power. These planets have what we need. We'll take them, one by one, until we have the strength to make the galaxy bow to us." The room buzzed with activity as the leaders discussed the specifics. They knew they had to move carefully. The Council had turned their backs on Earth, but that didn't mean they would be completely isolated. If the Council caught wind of their plans too early, they would try to stop them. So secrecy was key. Every decision, every move, had to be precise. Liana Kim, the brilliant scientist, stood up from her station, her face lit by the glow of a holographic screen. "I've been working on a new form of propulsion. If we can perfect it, our ships will be faster than anything the Council has ever seen. We'll be able to move across the galaxy without them even knowing we're coming." The room fell silent. This was exactly what they needed: speed and stealth. They could not afford to be detected too early. The galaxy was full of powerful species, and many of them would view Earth's rise as a direct threat. But if they could move undetected, they could build their empire with the element of surprise on their side. Holden nodded approvingly. "Keep working on it. We need to make this a reality." As the team worked tirelessly behind closed doors, Holden began to focus on another crucial aspect of their plan: the fleet. They needed a force that could rival the most powerful fleets in the galaxy. That meant advanced warships, capable of devastating the strongest enemies. But they couldn't just steal the technology from the Council. They had to innovate, to create something new, something that no one else could match. "I'm thinking of something we've never tried before," Holden said to the engineering team. "A new type of weapon, something that can pierce the shields of the most advanced ships. We'll need a weapon that can destroy an entire fleet in one blow. Something powerful enough to make the galaxy take notice." The engineers went to work, gathering resources and materials from Earth's hidden bases. They needed to design something that would change the balance of power. It wasn't just about strength. It was about creating a symbol of Earth's might. A weapon that would make the galaxy realize the true potential of humanity. Meanwhile, Earth's military began to train in secrecy. It wasn't enough to have the technology. They needed to be ready for war. Thousands of soldiers, pilots, and fleet commanders were recruited and brought into underground facilities where they underwent intense training. They had to become the elite, the best of the best. It wasn't just about fighting a battle. It was about proving humanity's place in the galaxy. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The hidden base grew more crowded with each passing day. Scientists, engineers, military personnel, everyone was working together, pushing their limits to make the impossible possible. They knew the Council would never expect humanity to rise like this, but they were determined to make it happen. Holden walked through the facility, watching the progress unfold. There were moments of doubt, moments where it seemed like the plan might fail. But every time he saw the resolve in the eyes of his people, he knew they were on the right path. "We've come too far to turn back now," he thought to himself. "They banned Earth, but we're going to show them what happens when you underestimate humanity." The day of the first launch finally came. The first of their new warships, a massive vessel designed for speed and firepower, was ready for testing. The engineers had worked around the clock, perfecting the ship's design. It was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. With advanced weapons systems and a nearly indestructible hull, the ship was built to carry out Earth's mission, to show the galaxy that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. Holden stood on the observation deck, looking down at the massive warship. His heart raced with anticipation. This was the moment when their plan would truly begin. The ship was ready for battle, ready to strike fear into the hearts of their enemies. "Launch the ship," Holden commanded. The crew moved swiftly, and with a roar, the ship's engines ignited. It slowly lifted off the ground, ascending into the sky before vanishing into the stars. The first step had been taken. Humanity's fleet was now officially in motion, and the galaxy was about to see Earth's true potential. As the ship disappeared into the darkness, Holden smiled. This was only the beginning. Earth was no longer a planet to be ignored. It was the heart of a rising empire, and soon, the entire galaxy would know their name. Humanity had been banned from the Council, but now they were building something greater. They had a fleet. They had the weapons. And soon, they would have an empire. The Council had made a grave mistake, and Earth was ready to make them regret it. The hum of activity was constant in the war room. Earth's forces had made their first move, and the galaxy's attention was slowly turning toward them. The sleek, powerful warship had entered hyperspace, its engines roaring as it cut through the void of space. This was no longer just a test. It was the start of something monumental. Humanity's plan to reclaim their place in the stars had officially begun. James Holden watched the fleet's progress from the command center. His eyes never left the holographic display of the ship's journey as it traveled deeper into the galaxy. The tension in the room was palpable. There was no turning back now. Every action, every decision, had to be perfect. The warship, named Vigilant, had been equipped with new technology, faster, more powerful than anything the galaxy had seen before. It could travel from one star system to another in the blink of an eye. It could strike without warning. And now, its target was a small, resource-rich planet located on the outer edge of the galaxy, a planet that had once been under the Council's protection. "This planet holds everything we need," Holden said to his generals as they gathered around the table. "We're going to take it. We won't just defeat them. We'll make a statement. The galaxy will know that humanity is no longer just a forgotten world on the edge of space. We are here, and we will take what we deserve." The generals nodded, their faces grim but determined. They knew what had to be done. This planet wasn't just a military target, it was symbolic. Taking it would prove that Earth was a force to be reckoned with. They would show the Council and the galaxy that humanity wasn't just a mistake to be erased. They were on the rise. The Vigilant arrived at the planet within a few hours. Its sleek form was barely visible against the blackness of space, its dark hull blending with the surrounding stars. The ship's sensors had already scanned the planet, identifying the weaknesses in its defenses. The Council had thought the planet was safe, But they hadn't counted on Earth's ability to adapt, to build something so powerful that no one could stop them. "Prepare for the assault," Holden ordered, his voice calm but heavy with purpose. The fleet's commanders went to work, readying their weapons systems and preparing for a swift, devastating strike. The first wave would be a show of force, humiliating, overwhelming, and impossible to ignore. As the Vigilant approached the planet's atmosphere, it activated its cloaking technology. The ship vanished from sight, leaving no trace of its presence. It was a ghost in the void, a silent predator waiting to strike. Holden watched as the countdown began. The planet's defenses were still unaware of their presence. The human fleet had perfected the element of surprise. They would strike first, and strike hard. 5 seconds, one of the commanders said. Holden's fingers clenched around the edge of the table. He could feel the tension in the air, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This wasn't just a battle. It was the beginning of Earth's new empire. 3, 2, 1. The commander's voice barely whispered as the countdown reached 0. A bright flash erupted from the Vigilant's main guns. The energy beam shot forward, cutting through space at an unimaginable speed. It collided with the planet's main defense shield, sending shockwaves through the atmosphere. The planet's entire defensive system faltered, unable to withstand the sheer power of the human weapon. Another strike followed, and then another. The planetary defenses were obliterated in seconds. The enemy's ground forces scrambled in a panic as their shields and weapons systems collapsed under the relentless assault. The Vigilant had made its mark. The planet was wide open now, vulnerable to whatever humanity decided to do next, and they weren't going to stop until it was theirs. Holden stood tall, his eyes scanning the map of the planet's surface. His fingers hovered over the holographic controls, ready to give the order to deploy the ground forces. "Send in the troops," he commanded. Hundreds of dropships descended from the ship, their engines roaring as they cut through the atmosphere. Earth's soldiers were trained for moments like this, swift, precise, and ruthless. They weren't here to negotiate. They were here to conquer. The first wave of soldiers hit the ground running. They didn't hesitate, didn't waste a second. They moved as one, working in perfect synchronization. Each soldier knew their mission and executed it with deadly precision. There were no second chances in battle. They had to win, and they had to do it quickly. The enemy forces, caught off guard and overwhelmed by the sudden assault, scrambled to form a defense. But it was too late. The ground troops advanced, securing key positions and neutralizing any resistance that tried to stand in their way. Earth's soldiers were fast, disciplined, and unstoppable. Within hours, the planet's defenses had been shattered, its military forces scattered. The victory was complete. But it wasn't just the planet they had won. It was the galaxy's respect. The Vigilant had proven that humanity was no longer weak, no longer forgotten. They had struck the first blow, and the galaxy had felt it. Earth had made its mark. Holden stood on the observation deck of the Vigilant, watching as the planet's cities burned in the distance. The smoke rose into the sky, a reminder of the power humanity now wielded. "We've sent a message," Holden said, his voice low but confident. "The galaxy will never forget what happened here. This is just the beginning. We will build our empire, and nothing will stop us." The Vigilant lifted off once more, disappearing into the void. The galaxy would never be the same again. The victory was sweet, but it came with consequences. News of Earth's bold strike spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Council representatives from all corners of the universe scrambled to react. The once impervious leaders, who had dismissed humanity as insignificant, now faced a dilemma. Earth was not only a threat, but also a new force to be reckoned with. At the heart of the council, the highest-ranking members convened for an emergency meeting. A sense of unease hung in the air, heavy like the weight of impending doom. The council had made a grave mistake in underestimating Earth, and now the consequences were becoming clear. "I told you we should have acted sooner," Councillor Xylar, a reptilian alien from the Furin sector, growled as he slammed his fist onto the table. Now humanity has made its move, and we are left scrambling to contain them. Quiet, Sylar, Counselor Vendra, an elegant and calculating mind from the Elysian system, said sharply. We all failed to see this coming, but it's not too late. Humanity's victory over that small planet doesn't make them invincible. She was right, of course. Earth's success on the first strike was impressive, but it was still just one planet. There were many more in the galaxy, planets that were well defended, far more powerful than the small world they had taken. But the Council could not ignore the larger issue at hand. If Earth had the power to strike with such precision, what else could they do? And if they could conquer one planet, what would stop them from trying to take more? We must make our move now, said Counselor Jaren, an imposing being from the Zenithar Union. If we don't stop them soon, we risk losing control of the entire sector. The Council's authority has already been shattered, and if we don't act, humanity will take more worlds. The galaxy will no longer be ours to rule. A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. Each counselor, regardless of race or origin, could feel the weight of the decision they were about to make. Earth had opened a door, and now it was up to the Council to decide if they would close it before humanity could push through. We cannot be afraid of them, Counselor Vendra continued, a cold determination settling in her tone. We must show Earth that they are nothing more than a fledgling species, out of their league in galactic politics. They will learn their place. It was decided. The Council would take swift action. A united fleet would be sent to crush humanity's ambitions before Earth could expand its reach any further. They would not allow this rebellion to take root. The galaxy's order would not be shattered by one small world's claim to power. But as the Council prepared for war, they failed to realize one crucial thing. Earth was not just a small world. It was a world with something they did not understand: resilience, ingenuity, and an unyielding drive to survive. Humanity had been cast aside, rejected by the very galaxy they now sought to dominate. But they were no longer the weak, defenseless species they had been before. They had learned. They had adapted. And now, they were ready for the galaxy's response. Back on Earth, James Holden and his commanders were well aware of the Council's intentions. Their victory had been hard-fought, but it had not been without repercussions. They knew the galaxy would not sit idly by while a single world claimed power, but they were not afraid. They had prepared for this moment. Holden stood in the command center aboard the Vigilant, staring at the holographic map of the galaxy. The Council's fleet was on its way, a massive armada of ships moving with the intent to destroy. They won't stop, Holden said, his voice grim but confident. But neither will we. The Vigilant had already been refitted with the best technology Earth had to offer. It was fast, lethal, and fully capable of facing any challenge that came its way. But this would not be a fight of just one ship against an entire fleet. The human forces had grown stronger, and they had been preparing for something like this. We've built something bigger, Holden continued, his eyes flashing with determination. We've built a fleet that will rival theirs. We've trained an army that will match their best. And we've got one advantage they'll never understand. And what's that? One of the officers asked, his curiosity piqued. We fight for more than just power, Holden said. We fight for survival. We fight for Earth. And when you have that kind of drive, you'll always find a way to win. The officers nodded, understanding the gravity of the words. This wasn't just a battle for territory or resources. It was a battle for the very existence of humanity in the galaxy. They were no longer fighting to simply survive. They were fighting to make sure they had a place in the universe. The first wave of the Council's fleet arrived, hundreds of ships emerging from the depths of space. They were sleek, powerful, and intimidating, a stark reminder of the galaxy's established order. But Earth's forces were ready. The Vigilant and its fleet stood ready for battle, knowing that this was only the beginning of the war. Holden gave the order to engage. The human fleet surged forward, and the first battle between Earth and the galaxies might begin. The Council had underestimated humanity, but they would soon learn that their decision to banish Earth had been their biggest mistake. The galaxy was in for a shock, and it was humanity that would deliver it. The vast void of space was soon filled with the deafening roar of laser fire and the hum of engines as the first battle between humanity and the Council's fleet erupted. Humanity's ships, though smaller in number, were quick, agile, and packed with cutting-edge weaponry, far more than the Council had anticipated. James Holden stood at the command center of the Vigilant, watching the battle unfold on the holographic display. His hands gripped the railing tightly, his jaw clenched in fierce concentration. This was no longer about survival. It was about proving that humanity belonged in the galaxy. They were not weak. They were not helpless. And now, they were ready to show the galaxy just what Earth was capable of. The Council's ships, a coalition of alien species, had formed an imposing fleet. Their size and firepower were overwhelming at first glance, but humanity had something they didn't: determination. The Council had underestimated Earth, and now they would pay for it. Holden's voice rang out across the command center. All ships, engage the enemy. Aim for their engines and weapons systems. We can't afford to let them regroup. The Vigilant moved forward, cutting through space with terrifying precision. Its sleek design made it a difficult target, while its advanced weaponry struck with deadly accuracy. Energy blasts exploded across the dark canvas of space as the human ships began their assault on the Council fleet. But the Council was not going down without a fight. Their ships retaliated with powerful beams of energy, and explosions rocked the human fleet. For a moment, it seemed as though the sheer size and strength of the Council might overwhelm them. But the humans didn't back down. "We got this," Holden muttered to himself, watching as the Vigilant narrowly avoided a barrage of laser fire. The human fleet had been training for this moment for years, adapting the best technology Earth had to offer. Their ships were quick, their tactics were unconventional, and they used every inch of their ships to their advantage. The Vigilant darted between the larger enemy ships, evading fire with ease. "Target their shield generators," Holden ordered. "Take out their defenses first, then we'll hit them where it hurts." The human ships swarmed around the Council's fleet, finding weak points and exploiting them with precision strikes. One by one, enemy ships fell. The Council had not expected such fierce resistance. They had believed that their vast armada would crush Earth's forces with ease, but now they were on the defensive. "We're making a dent, but we can't stop now," Holden said, his eyes scanning the battle around him. "We need to keep the pressure on. No mercy." The human fleet's strategy was working. By targeting the enemy's weakest spots, they were able to disable one ship after another. It wasn't long before the Council's fleet began to retreat, their once formidable ships limping away from the battlefield. But victory did not come without its cost. The human fleet had suffered losses as well. Several ships were severely damaged, and some were destroyed entirely. The men and women aboard those ships were heroes, fighting for a cause greater than themselves, and their sacrifice would not be forgotten. "We've won the first battle," Holden said, his voice solemn but proud. "But this is just the beginning. The Council won't give up that easily. They'll regroup and send another wave." "Then we'll be ready," said his second-in-command, Commander Sarah Lynn, standing beside him. "We'll make sure they know that Earth doesn't back down." Holden nodded, his expression hardening. "We've got the galaxy's attention now, and we'll show them that banning Earth from the Council was the biggest mistake they ever made." The battle may have been won, but the war was far from over. The Council would not allow a small, insignificant world to challenge their dominance without a response. Earth's forces had just sent a message that they were no longer a forgotten planet. They were a force to be reckoned with. As the human fleet retreated to regroup and make repairs, Holden stood at the command center, looking out into the dark expanse of space. The next battle would be harder. The Council would bring reinforcements, But humanity had already shown that they would not back down. This was only the beginning. The galaxy was about to witness the rise of Earth's empire, and there would be no stopping it. The first victory against the Council's fleet was just the beginning of a long and brutal struggle. After the battle, the human forces took a moment to breathe, but the truth was clear. The Council was not going to let Earth's rebellion go unanswered. They would regroup, rebuild, and return in greater numbers. The galaxy's most powerful empire was angry, and they would not let one planet challenge their authority. James Holden, still standing in the command center of the Vigilant, knew the calm wouldn't last. He could feel the weight of the galaxy's reaction pressing on his shoulders. Earth had made its mark, but now the real fight was about to begin. "We need to be ready for what comes next," Holden said, his voice firm but tired. "They'll come for us, and this time, they'll come with everything they've got." Commander Sarah Lynn nodded beside him, scanning the fleet status on her terminal. "We've already heard reports. The Council has called in reinforcements. They'll be here within a few days. We'll need to fortify our defenses and make repairs quickly." Holden turned to her, his eyes hard. "I'm not interested in just defending, Sarah. We need to hit them back before they get too strong. If we wait, they'll overrun us. We have to keep the pressure on." Sarah hesitated, then nodded. "I agree. But how do you propose we strike? We've already taken out one of their fleets, but they're still too strong for us to challenge head-on." Holden stared at the galaxy map, his mind racing through strategies. "We're not going to challenge them head-on. Not yet. We'll hit them where it hurts the most, at their supply lines." The human fleet's victory had sent shockwaves through the Council, but it was only one small part of the larger struggle. Earth's forces were still outnumbered and outgunned, but their intelligence and ingenuity were unmatched. The Council had vast resources, but they also relied heavily on supply lines to maintain their fleet. If Earth could disrupt those lines, it could create chaos within the enemy's ranks. "We'll need to find their supply depots," Holden continued, his voice cold with resolve. "We cut off their resources, and they'll have to fall back. We don't wait for them to strike us again. We take the fight to them." The decision was made. The Vigilant and the rest of Earth's fleet would embark on a daring mission, one that would take them deep into enemy-controlled space. It was dangerous, it was risky, but it was the only way to turn the tide of the war. As the mission was prepared, Holden gathered his senior commanders together. They all knew what was at stake. If they failed, the Council would have the upper hand, and Earth's rebellion could be crushed. If they succeeded, they would send a message to the galaxy that humanity would not just survive, they would dominate. "We're about to do something no one has ever done before," Holden addressed the group, his voice full of determination. "We're going to strike where the Council is weakest, and we're going to make them regret underestimating us." Commander Lynn spoke up, her tone serious. "It's a bold plan, sir, but it will take everything we've got. We'll be deep in enemy territory, surrounded by hostile forces. If we don't act fast, we'll be cut off." "I know the risks," Holden replied, "but we have no choice. If we don't hit them hard now, we'll be playing defense for the rest of the war. We take the fight to them, and we force them to question whether this war is worth fighting." A plan was set in motion. The human fleet, now bolstered by the success of their first victory, prepared for the mission ahead. They would infiltrate the enemy's supply lines, targeting their fuel depots, ammunition stockpiles, and other critical resources. The operation was risky, but it was also their best chance at taking control of the war. The Council's fleet relied on these supplies to maintain its dominance. Without them, the enemy would be forced to retreat, regroup, and possibly even reconsider their approach to the war. As the human ships moved into enemy space, the tension was palpable. Holden stood at the front of the command center once again, his eyes fixed on the holographic display. The mission was well underway. The fleet was moving with precision, avoiding detection as they approached the first of the Council's supply depots. "This is it," Holden said, a quiet intensity in his voice. We strike now, and we don't stop until we've crippled them. The first target came into view, a massive supply depot, heavily guarded by a line of Council warships. The human fleet moved quickly, silently, hiding in the shadows of nearby asteroids. The fleet was well equipped for stealth, and they had the element of surprise on their side. Lock onto their energy reserves, Holden ordered. A direct hit will cripple their supply chain. The first blast hit its mark, sending a wave of energy that rippled through the depot. The explosion was massive, lighting up the darkness of space. The human fleet immediately pulled back, retreating into the shadows as alarms blared across the Council ships. One down, the first victory in this new phase of the war. But this was just the beginning. Earth was showing the galaxy that they were not just a rebellion. They were a force capable of striking fear into the heart of the Council. Holden's voice rang out once again, filled with determination. We're not done. We hit them again, and we hit them hard. Let's show them what happens when you try to banish humanity from the galaxy. And so, the human fleet moved deeper into enemy space, ready to continue their assault on the Council's supply lines, knowing that every strike brought them one step closer to turning the tide of the war. The galaxy had no idea what was coming for them. The war had been long and brutal, but Earth's fleet had proven time and again that they were more than capable of facing the might of the Council. After successfully crippling their supply lines, the Council had no choice but to regroup and retreat. The strategy of targeting their resources had paid off. Their ships were in disarray, and the human fleet had managed to secure several key victories in enemy space. The galaxy was watching closely, and for the first time, the Council began to question whether Earth had become a real threat. James Holden stood at the command center of the Vigilant, staring out at the endless void of space. His expression was grim, but there was a hint of triumph in his eyes. Earth's rebellion had grown stronger with each passing day. The galaxy was starting to take notice. We've hit them hard, and they're retreating, Holden said, his voice steady but filled with pride. We've turned the tables on the Council. The balance of power is shifting. Commander Sarah Lynn stood beside him, her face showing the same determination that had driven them this far. We've made them bleed, but we can't let up. They'll come back stronger. We've shown them that humanity won't go down without a fight. But if we're going to win, we need to strike decisively. Holden nodded. The Council has underestimated us from the start. Now it's time to show them that Earth doesn't just want to survive. We're going to rule. They may have the largest fleets, but they don't have the heart and spirit we do. We've already taken the fight to them, and now we're going to take their territory. The decision was made. The Council's retreat was not a victory to rest on. It was a stepping stone. The human fleet would press forward, seizing key systems from the Council and establishing their own empire, one star system at a time. In the days that followed, the Vigilant led the charge, taking over one abandoned Council base after another. The once imposing empire was in disarray, and Earth's forces wasted no time in claiming territory. Systems that had once been under the Council's control were now flying Earth's flag. The galaxy's perception of humanity had changed drastically. We're not just taking back what's ours, Holden said in a speech broadcasted to the galaxy. We're taking what's theirs, and we're not stopping until we've built an empire of our own. As the fleet advanced, new allies began to join the cause. Other species, tired of the Council's oppressive rule, saw the rise of Earth's fleet as a beacon of hope. They offered support, either in the form of military aid or strategic alliances. Humanity was no longer the underdog. They were becoming a true power in the galaxy. The Council, meanwhile, struggled to adapt. Their once unshakable control over the galaxy was slipping. Earth's new empire had not only taken their territory, it had also shown that humanity had the will and the ability to challenge their dominance. The next target was the heart of the Council, their capital planet, a world shrouded in luxury and decadence, where the leaders of the Council plotted their dominance from behind secure walls. But Earth wasn't intimidated. The Vigilant and the rest of the fleet moved forward, their goal clear: to take the capital and end the Council's reign once and for all. The battle was fierce. The Council had regrouped and sent everything they had left to protect their capital. But Earth's fleet was unstoppable. Their numbers, their speed, their determination, they had all grown to a point where even the Council's best defenses couldn't stop them. As the Vigilant broke through the final lines of defense, Holden stood at the command center once more. The final blow was about to be struck. "Prepare to launch the final assault," he said, his voice calm and resolute. "This is for Earth. This is for our future." The human ships poured fire into the Council's capital, and within hours, the once impenetrable stronghold fell. The Council leaders surrendered, realizing that their time was over. Earth had proven itself not only as a survivor, but as a new and powerful force in the galaxy. The galaxy was now under the control of Earth's empire. Holden watched as the Council's capital, now in ruins, drifted behind them. His mission was complete. Humanity had not just reclaimed their place in the stars, they had carved out their own empire. "Today, we've made history," Holden said, his voice steady, but filled with pride. "We've shown the galaxy that Earth is no longer the forgotten planet. We are now the rulers of this galaxy. This is the dawn of Earth's empire." The Vigilant moved forward into the unknown, leading the charge into a new era. Earth had risen from rejection to supremacy, and no one would dare challenge their place in the stars again.